Hello everyone and welcome to Study IQ English. In this video, we'll be discussing about the history of banking in India. So let's get started. First, coming to what is a financial intermediary? What is the meaning of a financial intermediary? Now, let us start from the very scratch. What is the meaning of an intermediary? Intermediary is a term which is generally used to describe something or someone who intermediates something. Now, in case of a financial intermediary, what is the intermediation done by them? There is a person called a depositor who has excess of money or excess of some financial resources with them. And on the other hand, there is someone called a borrower who is in need of some money or financial resources, or who is in scarce of some financial resources. Now, in a case where there is no chance for these two persons to meet each other, banks or financial institutions act as intermediaries between these two persons, that is the depositors and the borrowers, and intermediate the lending and the borrowing process. So it's in simple words, the financial institutions or financial intermediaries are those institutions which intermediate the function of lending and borrowing money, thereby regulate the money supply and credit creation in an economy. Now let us understand that example in detail. So as we said, there are two persons. One is the depositor. So in case of the depositor, he is having excess of money. So he is having excess or surplus funds or money. Second one is the borrower. So in case of a borrower, a person who borrows is having scarce resources. That is, he doesn't have enough money. So he is in scarcity of some financial resources. Now, the depositor and the borrower, these are two entities, and there is no way by which they can connect to each other or they can meet. Now, financial institutions like the banks or NBFCs or any financial institutions intermediates between these two people. How? The depositor can deposit their money in the bank, and the same bank can issue money or can lend money to the borrower. This is how a financial institution becomes a financial intermediary. Now coming to financial intermediaries. Financial intermediaries are an entity that acts as a middleman between two parties in financial transaction. So an entity that acts as a middleman between two parties in a financial transaction. Now, which are these two parties? So one is the depositor. The depositor has excess of money or surplus of funds. Next one is the borrower. So borrower has lack of money or a scarcity of money. So financial intermediaries are the entities that acts as a middleman between two parties in a financial transaction. Now, lenders and borrowers. These two parties can be either lenders and borrowers. That is, another one is investors and entrepreneurs. Another one is households and business firms. So these are the different categories of entities. These are divided into formal and informal intermediaries. So financial intermediaries can be either formal or informal. Now, how do we classify a financial intermediary as a formal intermediary or an informal intermediary? A formal intermediary is the one which is in the formal sector, that is, which operates in the formal sector, and which one is also regulated. So these are the features. One, it functions or operates in the formal sector. Second one, it would be regulated by a regulator. Who is the regulator which regulates the financial intermediaries? It is the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, which is the central bank of the economy. Now coming to informal intermediaries. So what are informal intermediaries? Informal intermediaries works in the informal sector or in the unorganized sector. Unorganized sector or informal sector. Second thing is that they are regulated. Not regulated. They are not regulated. They work in the unorganized sector and they are also not regulated, which means that they do not comply with the guidelines of the regulator, which is the RBI. So this is financial intermediary and two different types of financial intermediaries, the broad classification, formal and informal. Example of formal intermediaries are banks, regulated NBFCs, etc. Now, example of informal intermediaries are money lenders, chit companies, etc. These are the examples. Now, let's come to the history of banking in India, starting from 1913. So, in the year 1913, commercial banks were required to register under the Companies Act. So, in 1913, a provision was made that the commercial banks working in the country, operating in the country, are required to register under the Companies Act. And there was no monitoring, no CRR or no SLR or no Basel norms also. CRR is cash reserve ratio. It is a ratio of deposits or the percentage of deposits the banks has to keep with itself. SLR is statutory liquidity ratio, which is the percentage of deposits banks have to keep with the RBI. And Basel norms we have already discussed. It is the regulations, Basel regulations given or the Basel standards. So CRR, SLR or even the Basel norms were not applicable on the banks in 1913. Coming to 1926, Royal Commission on Indian Currency, which was called the Hilton-Young Committee, popularly known as the Hilton-Young Committee, which is the Royal Commission on Indian Currency, was set up, and this committee, Hilton-Young Committee, recommended setting up of a central bank. And it was the Hilton-Young Committee that recommended for setting up a central bank which would be known as the RBI or Reserve Bank of India. When we learn about the history of RBI, Hilton-Young Committee is a very important fact to be remembered. It was this committee that recommended for the setting up of a central bank and also named it as the Reserve Bank of India. So Hilton-Young Committee, keep in mind the name, it's very important. Again, in 1929, the Great Depression in USA led to the collapse of 450 plus banks in India. This was in the year 1929. All these happened before independence. So the British Indian government became serious about setting up of the RBI. So why did the need for a regulator or why did the need for a central bank arise? The Great Depression of USA taught as a lesson that without a regulator or without a proper central bank to regulate the entire banking system in the country, the entire banking system may collapse because of externalities. So there came up the need to set up a central bank which would also be the regulator of these financial institutions in the country. In 1934, the RBI Act was enacted. So under the RBI Act, Central Bank, which was named as the Reserve Bank of India, was established in India. Next is 1935 April. RBI became operational from 1st of April. So from the 1st of April in 1935, RBI became operational. But the statute or the act was passed in 1934. RBI Act of 1934 established Reserve Bank of India, which became operational from 1935 April 1st onwards. The first RBI governor was Osborne Smith, and during that time India's viceroy was Wellington. Government ownership was approximately only 4.4%, which means that at the time of establishment of RBI, it was not a fully government-owned bank or a central bank. Government ownership was merely 4.4%, which means that a majority or a vast majority of the ownership was with the private sector. The same year 1935 July, commercial banks fulfilling certain conditions were listed in the second schedule of the RBI Act. So that's how we have scheduled commercial banks in place. So what are scheduled commercial banks? Scheduled commercial banks are those banks which are listed in the second schedule of the RBI Act. And for that, certain conditions were to be met. Such scheduled banks were required to keep CRR with the RBI. So what was the condition? If a bank has to be listed with the second schedule of RBI, it had to meet the CRR conditions. CRR is cash reserve ratio. What is cash reserve ratio? A percentage of deposits of the banks has to be kept with the RBI. So that is CRR. SLR is statutory liquidity ratio, which has to be kept with the banks itself. So CRR and SLR, but in case of scheduled commercial banks, the condition was that they had to keep a particular percentage of their deposits with the RBI. Now, in 1943 to 1949, during this period of 6 years, from 1943 to 49, C.D. Deshmukh became the first Indian RBI governor. This name is also important. The first governor of RBI, Osborne Smith, was not an Indian. He was a British man. So, C.D. Deshmukh was the first Indian to become the RBI governor. During 1948 to 49, all private investors' shares were transferred to Government of India. We have seen that at the time of establishment of RBI, government owned only 4.4% of shares in the RBI. Later in 1948-49 period, all the private investors' shares were transferred to the Government of India. That is after independence. So this happened after independence. RBI Transfer of Ownership Act of 1948 was enacted. Under this act, the private ownership was transferred to the Government of India. I have a very small correction here. I think earlier I said CRR and SLR differently. Actually, CRR is the percentage of deposits that the bank has to keep with RBI, and SLR is the percentage of deposits that the bank has to keep with itself. If I was mistaken, I'm really sorry. So let's continue. RBI was made answerable to the Parliament. Accountability of RBI, accountability of the central bank towards the legislature was made sure. RBI has to pay dividend to the Government of India from its profits. It was a recent current affair, and there were ongoing tensions between RBI and the Government of India also regarding the dividend share and the transfer of dividend. So dividend is that part of profit or the percentage of profit that RBI has to transfer to the government, and this was made part of RBI Transfer of Ownership Act of 1948. In 1949, Banking Regulation Act was passed. So under the 1949 Banking Regulation Act, license to companies to open banks were given. So licenses to companies to open up banks were given. Permission to banks to open new branches were given. To prescribe auditing and liquidating norms for banks such as SLR. So SLR norms were given. Then to protect the interest of depositors, certain guidelines were given, and force elimination and merger of weak banks were made. So these were all part of the Banking Regulation Act of 1949. Now let's see a question related to this topic which was asked in Prelims 2009, UPSC Civil Services Prelims 2009. In the context of independent India's economy, which was one of the following was the earliest event to take place? Nationalization of insurance companies, nationalization of State Bank of India, enactment of Banking Regulation Act, introduction of first 5-year plan. So you have to find out the answer. This is a task for you. So this is a homework for you. You can find it out on your own, and do comment in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you all the very best.